The structure is pretty straightforward. There is a DropBox primary folder account which has an apps folder. The apps folder has a miAudit ECMC, of course. That's what you're working with. And the reports that we talked about are kept in a reports folder right under that. So I'm going to open up this reports folder, and that SQLite file that I created when I did an export, you see it here 7 minutes ago?
Yes.
That's it right there. It's zipped up as a file, so when you export it, you just have to unzip it, but it's just a compressed file. That is an SQLite file.
All right, so that ends up going into the DropBox. Okay.
Correct. The other two formats that I talked about were CSV and JSON. That's these two here.
Yep.
And they were created 7 minutes ago as well. So those three are created together when I select the audits that I want to export.
Okay.
And you can pick, open up whichever one makes sense for you.
Sure.
The JSON is simply a text file, which is what I'm showing here. It's all human readable, but it's not designed to be like a spreadsheet. It's designed to be machine readable. And the CSV is a comma separated variable, and you can import that into a spreadsheet directly. So let me show you one other administrator feature, which we talked about just briefly, but you're going to have to decide how you want to do this. We talked about a short and long data set.
Right.
And we've built a single database and a single app, but we restricted the number of fields that we showed to electricities because they wanted a shorter data set. We added additional fields that we thought would be useful in the future, or if they wanted to do more detailed. And they're already built in the app, and you can change that on your end. So I'm going to just show you how to do that. And if I go here to preferences, set up preferences. Come on. It dropped out again here. So here I am, set up preferences. And the third one down, application mode, is short or long. And that's the application mode for the number of fields that are shown.
Okay.
So the data dictionary that I sent you includes everything.
Right.
The stuff that has a red asterisk,
it
isn't exactly this way, but very closely. The stuff with red asterisks is the short version, and the stuff without red asterisks is the long version.
Right. Got it.
And the database includes both. So whoever's using the short database or the long database, all the queries would still work on both.
Okay. So do I need to go in and manually change the application mode to long for myself and my contractors?
Yes, if that's what you plan to do. We defaulted it to short because that's what electricities wanted.
All right.
But we left it there because we were hoping that someone else would actually want to use the more detailed data.
All right. So that process, because I'm going to do that definitely. So that was home. I want to just make sure I know how to get
home
to that.
setup, which is upper left hand.
Yeah.
And then preferences.
All right.
So I'm going to try to pick one here that I can really demonstrate that on.
Can you go into ours and do that?
I cannot.
Okay.
That's a local user preference. So trying to think of a good example here. So here's cooling system.
Yep.
And what you see is that number of cooling systems, location of cooling system, load control, and auxiliary space cooling are not red asterisks. Those are additional fields.
Yep.
And if I have a cooling system and then I have an additional window mount AC unit, very convenient to be able to add that as additional. Instead of putting it in comments,
right,
you do it as a drop list.
Well, and my contractors don't have to fill out every possible.
Exactly.
So I would
Exactly.
much rather them have that because I think it's helpful, and they're pretty thorough guys. So I think they're going to feel better having the longer form, and then if something doesn't apply, then they can just pass it by.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's it's your decision and your definition of what's
Yep.
mandatory, what's optional.
Right.
Our intent is to give you options that you can use, and then you decide what your program rules are locally.